10 drugs, depending upon a disease and the comorbid disease with the main disease. Majority of the time, it contains drugs, that is the medicines. So, we know very few instances where prescription ends with no medicine, means lifestyle modification, waiting for the reports to come, but most of the time it ends with the prescription containing medicines. And medicines are to be administered. If you just take a prescription and keep it in a pocket, I don't think many patients will respond. May or two patients may respond through a placebo effect, but not otherwise. And those patients will respond, those who have a self-limiting diseases, where no medicine has a role. So when medicine is there, drug is there, now patient has to take it, administer in the body or on the body. It's very important that we select right route of drug administration to get the optimized result. Now just imagine patient is serious. Yes. Okay, please switch off your speakers. So,
Not hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now you're audible.
Okay, fine. So patient is very serious, patient in ICU, patient is unconscious, and you want to administer a tablet. Now this is a problem. As yesterday we were saying, you 5 hours, your diagnosis should be correct, your medicine selected should be correct, dose strength should be correct, and route of administration, formulation which you select should also be correct, so that patient is benefited to its maximum. So conscious patient unable to swallow anything, so you should have a parenteral route of administration, maybe IM, subcutaneous, intravenous, intramuscular, and so on. So we will discuss the different route of administration, merits and demerits of each route of administration. The ultimate purpose of selecting a route of administration is to optimize the benefit. If you remember yesterday, one of our resident told you about the chronopharmacology. Chronopharmacology means at what time we should give a drug to get the maximum benefit. This is chronopharmacology. If I take diuretic in a day and diuretic tablet in a night, at what time it will produce more effect? And if we say cholesterol or lipid lowering drug, if we give it in the morning, give it in the evening, atorvastatin mainly. If you see, rosuvastatin can be given anytime because it has a longer T-half. If you take atorvastatin, which has relatively lesser T-half, we should give it in the night because we want to inhibit the cholesterol synthesis in the night, which takes place more in the night. Sleeping drugs, hypnotic drugs works, sedative drugs works more in the night than in the day. So this is a chronopharmacology, and we have to select all these parameters, route, time, before saying that your patient will be optimally benefited. So these are the introduction which I wanted to give about this, and I'll share my slides, PPT, and then we will go through each and every route, and if there is any query later, we can discuss. So I'll take a minute to share the content. If it is Visible? Please let me know.
Yes, sir, it's visible. Yes, sir.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm lucky today that I could able to share it in a first go. So if we divide the routes, channels of drug administration, it can be antral, it can be parenteral, and it can be topical. And there may be some of the overlap which we will discuss. Antral means intestine, gastrointestinal tract, right starting from a mouth to the anus. So this is antral. We give drug orally. It goes to the intestine, stomach, duodenum, ileum, jejunum. And we can drug administer through the anus also, rectal to administer in the rectum, depending upon a situation, that is also called antral. And from here, drug is absorbed in the circulation, comes in the blood. This is called antral. Parenteral, away from the intestine, not the intestine, but some other routes. Means what are the other routes left with us? That is injectable, either IM, subcutaneous, intradermal, subcutaneous, and all these things. Clear? And the topical route of administration, when we administer a drug topically, either on a skin, on a mucous membrane, if we put a drug locally in the mouth, in the mucous membrane of the mouth, it's a topically also, it's a antral also. If you see, you're right to say it's a topical in the antral. So these are the modalities which we will discuss, their benefits, advantages, and all. So this is the same. If we say it's a antral, oral.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, slides are not changing.
Not changing, but for me it is changing. For me it is changing. Oh, okay. I'll see. I'll try to share it again.
So we.
This is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now third slide is visible.
Okay. Yeah. Now if I make it now, this is visible.
No, sir, slides is not visible. The regular slides are visible.
Regular? Okay, shall I keep it low size only, regular size only?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. This is visible. I'll try to enlarge its size if I successfully do that. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So antral, when we give it in the intestine, gastrointestinal tract, which we have discussed, it starts from the mouth, esophagus, stomach, and all that rectum part. So this is a antral. So it's oral. In the oral cavity, again sublingual. It can be buccal. It can be rectal. So this is antral. So we will discuss when we say oral, drug is going in the stomach and it's a disintegrating, dissociate and disintegrate, and then drug is absorbed according to the property of a drug. In subsequent in general pharmacology, you will discuss acidic drugs are better absorbed when the medium is acidic because drug is non-ionized. Acidic drug in alkaline medium gets ionized, it's less absorbed. So for absorption of drug from any route in the body, if the drug is lipid soluble, if the lipid soluble will be absorbed more. This is a general rule. And to remove the drug from the body, it's important that drug should be converted into water soluble so that it goes out. If the drug remains lipid soluble and it will keep on accumulating in the body, it will never go out. So there are metabolic reactions which you will understand, which converts the drug, which is lipid soluble into water soluble. So these are the antral route which we will discuss. Oral route, refer to the two methods of administration. One is applying topically in the mouth, which we have discussed, like a buccal patch can be given. Nicotinic patch can be applied in the buccal. Buprenorphine patch can be applied in a buccal cavity for the pain. Nitroglycerin patch can be applied in the buccal cavity, and many more. So second part is a swallowing of a drug for absorption along the GIT into the systemic circulation. Clear? So that's why we call it as a per oral. PO, which is a Latin word, OS, is an abbreviation used for indication for oral route of medication administration. So sometime we write PO, per oral, you can remember like this. Advantages, very convenient. We all take medicines orally, per orally, can be self-administered. We always ask one short note on a route from the route of administration, remember that. Merits and demerits, majority of the time, if you see the sublingual route has been very commonly asked because we want to give importance to the routes. So absorption takes place along with the whole length of GIT. Surface area of the GIT is very large. Even the ionized drugs are absorbed due to its larger surface area. This is achieved because you don't need medicine to be sterilized for this. So compared to the parenteral route where you need your medicine to be sterilized, completely sterile, and you need a device, syringes, needles to administer. So disadvantages, sometime I want to add one thing that most of the drugs, they are not 100% absorbed. Some drugs you will find they are 80% absorbed, some are 40% absorbed orally. This is disadvantage EPC. But there are certain drugs which are absorbed 100% from the GIT. Now it's a tricky situation. Patient has come to you and you are saying that you ciprofloxacin infusion. But if you give ciprofloxacin tablet to a patient, 100% is absorbed. Another thing, if your patient wants methylcobalamin, vitamin B12, so if patient wants B12, then what should be done? And you prescribe them injection. Oh, there is a neuropathy and all that. You should take your vitamin B12 level is very low. Let's give injections. So let's give injections. So then when we say injection, why injection? Better absorption, but oral tablet is 100% absorbed. So this is a rationality which we make you learn that dynamic and kinetic of a drug is very important to decide which route you're going to give to your patient, because injections are going to increase the risk of allergic reaction, cost of therapy will increase. So when we give orally, even if the drug is appropriately absorbed, some drugs are there which undergo first pass metabolism. You will discuss about the first pass metabolism in a detail. In a nutshell, I'll say you. Suppose you take a medicine and in anatomy you have studied your absorption of food from the intestine. There is a porta cable anosmosis, you know there is a porta cable anosmosis. From the GIT, from the stomach, from the intestine, blood will go to the liver. Clear? So through the splenic blood vessel and then portal vein, it will go to the liver. When drug passes from the lumen of the intestine to the blood circulation, some part of the drug may get metabolized, destroyed in the wall of the intestine itself. Now from the mesenteric blood vessels, portal vein, blood enters into the liver. In the liver, you know that sinusoids are there and blood enters into every sinusoid. Then it forms hepatic vein, and then hepatic vein comes to the inferior vena cava, and then it is distributed throughout the body. When it comes to the inferior vena cava, through the hepatic vein, superior and inferior hepatic veins, then we call the drug has reached to the systemic circulation. Drug may be metabolized to an extent of 40 to 60%, sometime more if we give the dopamine, and drug is not reaching to the circulation adequately. Nitroglycerin, which is used for the sodium nitroprusside, which is given for the acute myocardial infarction, if we give it orally, majority of the drug is metabolized before it comes to the systemic circulation for action in the heart. Purpose is defeated. So this is disadvantage of this route, that first pass effect drugs absorbed orally are initially transported to liver via portal vein, where it is metabolized. Oral drug may be irritant, like chloroquine tablet is irritant. Sometimes they are bitter. They're unpalatable. So what we do? We coat the medicine with a sugar coat. We call them as a enteric coated tablets, sugar coated tablets. So the taste is masked. Irritation is masked. So this way, different formulations we have, which we will discuss later, that to how to minimize the disadvantage of a drug. So destruction of a drug by the gastric acid is possible. Gastric juices may destroy the medicine. Effect is slow. Emergency, you cannot select oral route. Unpleasant taste of some drug may be there. Unable to use in unconscious patient. These are the things which we have discussed. So further first pass metabolism we have discussed. We will discuss in a length when we do the general pharmacology. And this is a diagrammatic representation of first pass metabolism. If we see here from the GIT, drug will reach through the mesenteric blood vessels to the liver. In a liver, it may get metabolized because we have a cytochrome enzymes here, cytochrome 3A4, which metabolizes majority of the medicines, and whatever drug is left will reach to the general circulation through hepatic veins. So formulations which we have, orally we take tablets, we take capsules. For children we give liquids, syrups, solutions, suspensions, elixirs. So these are the types of oral formulation which are present, and sometimes we have a tablets coated with sugar coated tablets, enteric coated tablets. Sometimes we have a sustained release tablets. So sustained release means if drug is having a half-life of say 2 hours, and then you need to give the drug more frequently to the patient. So patient will be doing this whole of the day only, will keep on taking the tablets only, and compliance will be bad. So patient may forget to take the medicine. So what we do, we put more amount of drug in a same tablet. Then what we do, we coat it with a material which dissolves slowly in the intestine and keep on releasing small amount of drug continuously for a longer duration of time. So this becomes extended release, sustained release, oral tablet preparations. So we can have multiple tablets within a capsules. So when capsule is dissolved, then tablet will release and then it will produce its effect. So this way we can have a different dosage formulation for oral route. Sublingual is a very important rule. I told you that we are going to, majority of the time we are interested that students should know this, because this is a route where first pass metabolism is bypassed. You understand first pass metabolism. Drug is going to intestine, to the blood, to the liver, and then to the systemic circulation, where most of the drug is metabolized. So if we take this route, sublingual route, under the tongue, if you remember your anatomy, because you're very fresh in anatomy, under surface of the tongue is highly vascular. Blood vessels are enormous over there, and absorption of the drug is very fast. And especially the lipid-soluble drugs will be absorbed more from this route. So economical, you have to put it in a mouth. Even a glass of water is not required. Quick termination. Effect is quickly terminated. Now you will say how it is terminated. Quickly terminated means when a desired effect has come, patient can spit out the medicine. But spitting is not a good habit. But we advise patient when the effect is over, you swallow the tablet. So what will happen when it is swallowed? Then it will undergo first pass metabolism and it will be destroyed in the liver. Clear? So whenever we want to terminate the action, it can be spitted out or it can be swallowed. First pass is avoided. This is a major benefit of it. Otherwise, what you have to do, you have to give very large amount of drug. 50% is gone in the liver or more is gone in the liver, and the rest desired comes in the circulation. So this is the important thing. Absorption is quick. I told you the reason. Disadvantage, unpalatable, bitter drug, irritation of the oral mucosa. Again, many people will not able to take if they don't like the taste, and large quantity not required, where in an oral large quantity was requiring for those drugs which undergo first pass metabolism. Few drugs are absorbed, all are not absorbed. As I told you that only the lipid soluble drugs will be absorbed. That is a drug factor. That's a property of a drug. There's a quality of a drug which will make the drug lipid soluble, and that will be absorbed topically or from any other route. So buccal route, if we see, buccal administration is where the dosage form is placed between the gum and the inner lining of the cheek. So you can see in a picture. So just applied, if we say it looks like this, after 1 hour it swells and it keeps on dissolving, keeps on swelling. There is a matrix of this formulation which contains medicines, and it will keep on releasing from the matrix. And this drug is absorbed through the mucosa of the buccal cavity. So this is a one way by which the painkiller buprenorphine can be given by this route. So advantage, avoid first pass metabolism again. Rapid absorption, yes, very rich in blood supply, not only the undersurface of the tongue, which is very highly blood supplied, but otherwise also mucosa membrane of the oral cavity is richly blood supplied. So drug stability is there, drug is stable here. And disadvantage, inconvenient. Advantage lost if it is swallowed, and small dose limit. So this is you cannot give a very large patch in the gum. Patient will be uncomfortable. You can give smaller doses by this route only. So rectal route, which we discussed, that through the rectum, this is the rectal sphincter, you know the anatomy, and suppositories can be administered in the rectum through the anal canal. So with the applicator, it can be done. In the children, this route is very commonly used. And if there is any indication for a local indication of the rectum or the colon, if there is an ulcerative colitis, which you have to give a drug orally, then it will be absorbed, then it will release in the colon, means you need to give large quantity. Where you need an action of a drug in ulcerative colitis? In colon. But you're giving a drug which is going throughout the body. Your whole body is getting exposed to the medicine unnecessarily. So we take this route and we put the drug rectally. It reaches to the rectum and the colon, and medicine exerts its action locally in the antral circulation or antral part. Suppositories, enema, can be given if there is it may be a corticosteroid enema in ulcerative colitis can be given. Aspirin, theophylline can be given in children. Chlorpromazine can be given in a children. This route is preferred in a children. Even paracetamol, which is a medicine for fever, reducing the fever, you all know. In children, it can be given through the rectal route by suppositories. Of course, absorption is erratic. It's not as good as absorption as orally, because fecal matter are going to interfere with the absorption of the things, and the social problem, people may not like to have this. Advantages: used in children, little or no first pass metabolism. Why it is a little and why it is no? So it is important to know. If you see the rectum, lower part of the rectum and the anal canal, they have a porta cable anosmosis side here. Porta means it will go through the portal vein. Porta cable. And cable means it will go through the inferior vena cava through the systemic circulation. So some part of the drug which is absorbed through this area goes into the systemic circulation and part goes to the liver, portal circulation or the portal vein through the mesenteric veins. So this way part of the drug will go through the liver and part of the drug will go directly into the systemic circulation. So that's why it is written little or no first pass metabolism. Used in vomiting, if there is a vomiting, there's a disadvantage. Patient cannot take the drug orally, then rectal route can be given. If there is a fever and you need to give paracetamol in children, especially, they cannot take orally, then we need to administer through rectal route. Higher concentration rapidly achieved. This is a good, but it is erratic. So inconvenient, absorption is slow and erratic. Irritation or inflammation of the rectum mucosa can occur by its local action, so that may not be desirable. So these were the enteral routes which we discussed in a nutshell. And we have a systemic. Systemic means drug is going into the system. Drug is going into the venous system. Drugs are going in the inferior or the superior vena cava. In a superior vena cava, if the drug is given in a upper limb, in the antecubital vein, then it will go to the best part of the area for giving intravenous cannula. Most stable vein is in the snuff box. You remember snuff box? Have you studied in anatomy?
Yes,
Snuff box? Yes. Okay, very good. I will not ask the boundaries. I know it's difficult to remember the boundaries of the which tendon forms the anterior and which tendon forms the posterior over the thumb. So snuff box veins are stable over there. It can be chosen. So if it is given it through the superior vena cava, it goes to the heart. And if we give it anywhere in the femoral vein or anywhere, it goes from the below in the inferior through the inferior vena cava. So term parenteral comes from a Greek word para, meaning outside, entron, outside the intestine, is called parenteral. The route of administration bypasses the alimentary canal. It is very clear to you, parenteral. So means it's a injectable route, simple. Injectable, if we see, then it has to be intravenous, intramuscular, subcutaneous. Subcutaneous means in a subcutaneous tissue, under the skin, under both the layers of the skin, dermis and epidermis, both under that there is a subcutaneous tissue where we give. Insulin is given subcutaneously. Patient has to take themselves. We make them learn how to take subcutaneous injection. So these days pens are available. You must have seen pens, insulin administration pens, very fine needle, causes very less pain. Drugs can be given intra-arterial, in the arteries. Please never try to give injection intra-arterial unless you are trained for this. When you put anything in the artery, the pressure is very high, and you can see that gush of blood will come out. There's almost fountain will come out of the blood vessel. So you have to be very careful. You have to be expert for that. So when then you will say, when it is bad, then why we are giving intra-arterial? Yes, we do give. Sometime if there is a cancer, say there is a cancer in a hand, and cancer cells are getting blood supply through the arteries only. If I give anti-cancer drug in the vein, what will happen? It will go to the heart first. From the heart, it will go to the lungs. From the lungs, it will come back to the heart. Heart will push through the aorta to the whole of the body. And part of that drug will reach to the hand where malignancy is there, cancer is there. So if we give directly into the radial artery, so our anti-cancer drug will go only to the cancer cells, cancer part, or to the cancer area, or to the malignant area. So this will prevent the exposure of whole of the body to the anti-cancer drugs. Anti-cancer drugs, they cause lots of adverse effects. They are not very pleasant to take. So this way the dose of anti-cancer drug can reduce and it can have a localized effect. So we give intra-arterial. Intra-articular in the joints, if there is a joint pain, especially the knee pain, or maybe other joint when there is an inflammation, there is a problem, there is an arthritis, patient is unable to walk, then we give intra-arterial injections of corticosteroids, which are anti-inflammatory, reduces the inflammation, reduces the pain, and the quality of life of the patient is good for some time. Intrathecal means we give it in the through the for the meninges we give, where we need the drug to be reached to meninges for a meningeal infection. Maybe infection is there where we can give antibiotics there. We can give many more anti-cancer drugs we can give through this route. And intradermal means within the derm, intradermal. So not the subcutaneous. So between the epidermis and dermal part of this. So the difference in 1:10. So here we give some of the vaccines we give by this route. So smallpox vaccine we used to give by this route. And of course, even BCG is given by this route. So absorption through the lungs, that is inhalation. When we give something through the lungs, like anesthesia we give through the lungs. For bronchial asthma patient, we give some of the drugs through the lungs, that is nebulizer, inhaler, spacer. Most of the drug goes to the lung and some of it is absorbed to the circulation. Especially the general anesthesia, when we give nitrous oxide gas for inducing of the maintenance of the anesthesia, and we give halothane for induction of anesthesia, we give it in the lungs through inhalational route. And this drug comes to the blood, goes to the brain and produces anesthesia. So here, lungs becomes one of the route, parenteral route for the administration of the anesthetic agent. Not only it absorbs, but it secretes also. Secretes means then when anesthesia is over, this nitrous oxide gas comes back into the blood. From the blood, it comes to the alveoli. From the alveoli, we expire it out. So it's a organ for absorption and excretion of the things. So lungs, they function this. Sometimes the person, those who have alcoholics, they smell of alcohol in their breath. So that is also route of elimination of a drug, which you will discuss in a detail in subsequent lectures. Intravenously, now you know it. So disadvantage of this route, you know it, is irritation as the cellulitis can occur when we put a needle. Thrombophlebitis can occur when we put a needle and give some drug. Sometimes the needle get countered through the vein, means it's not exactly in the vein, or it was in a vein, but now it has countered further. It has gone beyond the vein. Now medicine is going area around the vein, but not in the vein. This can cause many problems. So many local irritant drugs are there. If such drugs are are percolated outside, they can cause lot of local irritation. By mistake, instead of giving intravenously, if we give some drug intra-arterially, it can be a disaster. Drug like thiopentine, which is a drug for inducing anesthesia, general anesthesia. If this drug is given outside, which is 2.5% we give, and then it can cause gangrene and maybe the patient has to lose his limb. So one has to be very careful while giving intravenously. You need a training. This is a disadvantage of a route. Technical assistant is required. Danger of infection is there. And it's expensive, because expensive means today if you see, vaccine of COVID is free. But if you go to the nursing home, private hospital for taking this vaccine, they will charge you 250 rupees. That is not a cost of the vaccine. That is a cost of administration of a drug. So this way, there is expensive. Danger of infection is always there intravenously, less convenient and painful. But advantage, if you see that if you're giving 1 milligram of medicine, 100% of it is coming to the systemic circulation. So availability of a drug is 100%. Bioavailability is a fraction. What amount you give and what is absorbed out of it into the systemic circulation is a bioavailability. If we give a tablet, 500 milligram tablet, paracetamol, and 80% of it comes into the circulation, means only 400 milligram has reached to the blood. So this is bioavailability. So desired blood concentration is achieved quickly. We can give loading dose by intravenous route. We will understand and discuss this intravenous route, bioavailability in detail. Vomiting and diarrhea, if there is there, we can choose this route for administration of this drug. Large quantities can be given. Emergency situation, this is a route of choice. First pass metabolism is avoided because we are giving medicine directly into the vein. So that is avoided. So gastric manipulations are avoided because a drug may be a irritant, may be destroyed in the gastric juices. That part is taken care when we give it intravenously. Intramuscularly. So anybody will say the best part for administration of intramuscular injection, which you have studied in your anatomy? Anybody?
So deltoid.
Sorry,
Deltoid.
deltoid. Wonderful, wonderful. Now my question will be, which part of the deltoid? Deltoid has 3 types of fibers: anterior, middle, and posterior.
So
Middle
fiber.
Middle part. Oh, wonderful. Your anatomy is really good. Really good. I appreciate. So middle part of the deltoid. Why deltoid? Why not biceps? Why not triceps? Deltoid is a bulky muscle. It can accommodate some quantity of drug in it. But you cannot give a large quantity. If you want to give 10 ml of a drug intramuscularly, then there is a problem. If you give 1 ml, okay, deltoid can accommodate. If you want to give 3-4 ml, then you have to select a much bulkier muscle. If you want to give 5 ml, 6 ml, then you cannot give it in the deltoid. So then what is the muscle where you can give? You must have seen
Gluteus
gluteus muscle. Wonderful. Gluteus maximus muscle. Okay, very good. So that gluteus muscle can be selected. So you know it in applied anatomy, which part of the outer upper part of the gluteal region is selected for that. Why? Why
So
that
that
part?
the structures and
Nerve
damage
injury
to
can be
sciatic nerve is
prevented.
prevented.
Very good. Sciatic nerve, we don't want to injure with the needle. So it's important that we select the drug, place of injection accordingly. It's expensive. Infection can occur, nerve damage can occur. So that's why anatomy is very important. Because you know the course of nerve. You must be thinking that why anatomy people always teaching course of nerve, this nerve, that nerve. So there is one nerve in a hand under one tendon. What is that nerve? Median nerve. Median nerve is there in a hand.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it's a protected under one tendon. So if there is a pain in a hand and we want to anesthetize the hand, we give local anesthesia near the around this tendon, and we block the median nerve here, so the pain sensation is taken care of. So that's why the course of nerve is very important. We give it to prevent the damage to the nerve. Subcutaneous, we have discussed that insulin is given by subcutaneous injection. Subcutaneous means under the skin, not in the skin, remember. Absorption is slow, so action is prolonged. Clear? So till now we have discussed which is the fastest route we have discussed so far. We have discussed
IV.
IV, very good, very good, very good.
Intravenous.
That's great. And then after IV?
Sublingual.
Intramuscular.
Intramuscular, yes. Parenteral route we discussed, intramuscular. Then we can have a subcutaneous. If we give something intraperitoneally, which we are not being practiced well, because chances of infections are there, but in some of the dialysis, peritoneal dialysis, we use peritoneum because peritoneum has a very large surface area equivalent to the skin. So drugs are absorbed very fast. So if we see, we can equate intravenous and parenteral almost equal, but IV is more than intraperitoneally, and then intramuscularly, and then subcutaneously, if we take the things in this way. So then after IM, we can say the subcutaneous route comes, and in a subcutaneous route, we can implant a tablet or a porous capsule under the skin in the loose tissue by giving small incision in a skin and put a tablet inside, and which is then stitched up and medicine remains inside. Sometime with a wide bore needle, we push the medicine here, like depot injection of a progesterone, which works up to 3 months. And it prevents the pregnancy for 3 months. As a contraceptive agent, we use dimethylprogesterone acetate, DMPA, administered. So we can install small pellet or a capsule here. Intraarterial we have discussed, rarely used, especially anti-cancer drugs we can give for a localized effects. So drugs are also used for a diagnosis of peripheral vascular disease. Suppose you want to diagnose Berger disease or Raynaud's phenomenon. Then we put the drug, like angiography we do in the heart. We can give a medicine in the carotid artery to see the blood vessels in the brain, arteries in the brain. We can give it in the femoral artery to see the blood vessels diameter and the caliber in the lower limb, to assess whether there is any peripheral vascular disease or not. Berger disease is very painful, claudications are there, patient is very uncomfortable with peripheral vascular disease. Then we study and then we give the treatment appropriately. Intra-articular, we have discussed that in a knee joint we can give injection, in other joints also we can give injection. We need a training for that. Otherwise, what will happen? Instead of giving medicine in a synovial joint cavity, synovial fluid or synovial membrane, somebody can give injection here itself. So what will happen? Then bone will be damaged. Infection can go to the brain, bone. Infection can go to the synovial joint also. There is a problem. So antibiotic and corticosteroids can be given in the inflamed joint cavity by experts. So this is important, experts. But expert doesn't mean that you always need an orthopedician. If you practice in 2 and you learn the technique, the direction of the needle, how it should go, then even a MBBS person can give this injection successfully. Means training is required. Intradermal, as we discussed that, have you heard that some of the medicines should be tested for their safety, that they should not cause any allergy before we administer? Have you heard of this?
Penicillin. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Penicillin.
yes. We call it as a sensitivity test.
Right.
Yes, sensitivity of the drug. We check whether patient is sensitive to drug or not. If patient is sensitive to a 0.1 ml of the drug, which we put it in a forearm in the skin, that is in the dermis, and we wait for 15 to 20 minutes. If we find that there is some allergic reaction, as you can see here, there is a reaction, there is a papule is formed following the injection. So means this patient, if we give larger dose, will have a similar type of a reaction. So what we do, we don't give the medicine then. So this is a very important thing, that we ensure that your patient is safe. See, remember one thing, medicines are never safe. What you have to do, you have to ensure the safety of the patient. Normally we say drug is safe, vaccine is safe. No, it's not that. No vaccine, no drug is safe for a person who is allergic to that. So one has to be very careful. So inoculation, administration of the vaccine, like smallpox vaccine was given, used to be given like this. We don't give. It has been eradicated now, smallpox. So route of administration, topical. We put the drug topically in eye drops. We put the nasal drops in the nose, that's called the nasal drops. These days, instead of drops, we have a spray of the nose, which we can put in the nostril and press, and there will be a spray in the nose. We know that whenever there is a nose block and sore throat, then we advise the nasal decongestant through the nose. We put some medicines in the ear also, if there is any folliculitis, if there is any infection, if there is any fungal infection, if there is any wax, and we want to dissolve the wax in the ear. We put the medicine in the ear. Lungs we give, as we have discussed, that lungs for the bronchial asthma is a disease primarily of the bronchus, of the lungs, is a disease of the lungs. Now we want to produce a relaxation of the bronchial muscles in the lung. So what we do? We give a tablet of salbutamol, it goes to the liver, then it is absorbed, it comes to the circulation, goes everywhere in the body, and small part goes to the lungs also. Means your brain is exposed to the salbutamol and it produces tremors, salbutamol, when it is given. So instead of giving heavy dose of orally, say 150 milligram, if we give it orally, then if we give inhalation of suppose the dose of a salbutamol is 2, 4 and 8 milligrams, suppose we give 4 milligram and it goes to whole of the body and 100 microgram reaches to the lungs to produce a benefit. Means majority of the drug is going to an area where drug is not required and it is producing adverse effects unnecessarily, side effects unnecessarily. So what we do, we give 100 microgram, one puff of inhalation directly into the lungs, and rest of the body is not exposed to the medicine unnecessarily. So this is the advantage of the inhalational route, which is the route which is very commonly we ask after the sublingual route. We are very fond of asking inhalational route, that is the lung. Vagina, we give pessaries in the vagina for fungal infection. Urethra, we put the medicines. And the colon we have discussed for ulcerative colitis, we give it through the rectal route. So topical forms are the creams, ointment, lotion, gels, transdermal patch. Transdermal patch is the third number of question which we ask. So mark this and read this carefully. Then in our eyes, we put the solution, suspensions and the ointment. If there is a conjunctivitis, we put the ointments in the eye. Nose and lungs, we put the spray or a inhaler or a powders we instill. These are the dosage form for the topical use. Advantages and disadvantages of the topical routes, you all know. We have discussed most of them. Local therapeutic effect is there, not well absorbed into the circulation, into the deeper part of the body or the skin or the mucous membrane. So lower risk of the side effect because lesser drug is going into the body. More drug will go, more adverse effect will be there, more side effect will be there. If we give lesser propensity or the chances of adverse drug reactions will be there. So transdermal route offers steady level of drug in the system. Transdermal route steady levels means from the skin. If we apply a patch over a skin, this drug patch contains the drug and it slowly comes into the circulation, keeps on going to the circulation slowly and steady level, constant level of drug in the system is maintained. You want to say anything? So spray for inhalation through the nose may be a local, maybe a systemic, because when we put in the nose, some of the drug will go to the system. If we put it in the lungs, it is topical, but some will go to the systemic also. Transdermal patch, I want you to read this and very shortly we'll finish it. I know I have enclosed, though we started bit late. I'll take only 2-3 minutes and conclude. Transdermal patch, you can see a picture in your books. What are the parts of the transdermal patch? Because we are fond of asking this. So the area where we apply this, blood circulation should be good. If we put a transdermal patch on a palmar surface, do you think it will absorb? If we put it in a sole of the foot, because skin is thick, blood supply is, though there are two set of blood vessels in the arm, in the hand, but skin is very thick. Absorption will not be there. So we have to see that the area where we apply the transdermal patch, stable blood levels, blood supply should be good over there. That is one of the factor for its absorption. And it maintains a constant, steady, stable blood level. Slowly it releases. People, those who are smoker and nicotine, or they want to quit the smoking, transdermal patches of a nicotine are applied on the skin. So it remains, it keeps on coming into the circulation and de-addiction part is taken care. No first pass metabolism, it's directly going into the blood. Drugs must be potent, means it should be very effective. Effective means lesser amount should be effective. So because you cannot in a southern part, if we see, and the sticking the transdermal patch on a wet area is very difficult. So these are the routes which we have discussed. The fastest is intravenous, then intraosseous. Intraosseous means within the bone we give injections. In the bone marrow we give the injection at times. So that works 30 to 60 seconds. Endotracheal route, we put the drug directly into the trachea. Inhalation, sublingual 2 to 3 minutes. So this is a MCQ can come, which route is the fastest route, time until effect. Intramuscular 3 to 5, sublingual 2 to 3. If we combine all the routes, antral and parenteral routes, so this is a time taken for its action. So transdermal is 30 to 90 minutes, and this is a rough idea hierarchy which you can plan and you can see. So this way, selection of the route depends upon the physical property of the drug, speed which the drug is absorbed or released, need of bypass hepatic metabolism. We should see that if we are giving drug for a heart which is metabolized in the liver, so we should select sublingual route then over the oral route. To achieve high concentration in a particular site, accuracy of the dosage, condition of the patient, all these are the factors which we see that what should be done. So if we see, so these are the routes, and quickly I will be happy if there is any question, we can take 1 or 2 questions, and if there is any question thereafter, you can certainly send me on my WhatsApp group or departmental WhatsApp group, you can send and we will try to resolve it. Any question, any quick question? Okay, and now let me see that how I take the attendance. Attendance is very important, partner. Okay, participants, and there is a meeting, manage, download attendance. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, beta. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.